Okay, this is my this is my 193S battery, which as you can see is very battered. It's been through a series of crashes, it's been bent, but the good thing is it's not actually leaking and it's not actually swelling up. So I've continued to charge it, albeit very cautiously out in the shed, in a protected place, concrete floor, metal box over the top. So at the moment it's fully charged. So having a look at it, with this amazing little thing that everybody should have lots of. So I pop that in there, and what it's doing, three cells, 12.7, first cell at 4.23, second at 4.22, and the third at 4.2. So it's reasonably evenly balanced and ready for go. So I'm going to fly this and see how I go. Now I'll fix the jumper, which was disconnecting, to see if I've cracked it or not before I decide whether I want to buy more 3S batteries. It's nice having more power. I can fly in more challenging conditions, but I want to do a bit more flying with it before I decide whether to invest in a few more, because they're not cheap. Well, to me they're not. So I'm pulling out the hybrid that's been sitting on the shelf for a bit. As with another one I've got, I'm using a Bugs 6 frame, Bugs 3 motors, and in fact I've got a Bugs 3 antenna on this one, but if I look inside, and the VTX02 Eascam VTX02 video transmitter, and what I've done with that transmitter, I'm using little plugs now to allow me to change the camera over. So the same Foxeer camera I'm using in the other hybrid, which is based on a Bugs 3 board. This one is based on the Bugs 3 Mini flight control board, and I've got a buck converter up the top to step the voltage going into the flight controller down to about 8 volts. So what I'm about to do now is to put the multimeter on it and test it to see just what voltage a fully charged 12.7 volt battery is putting through to the flight board after it goes to the buck converter. Okay, so I've got my multimeter. I'm going to plug in the battery. And I always get that double test before the flight control board comes back to tell the ESCs, where the power's coming through, that they're talking to each other. So okay, it's now on. So I'm trying to put that somewhere where you can read it. Maybe that'll work. Yeah, I think I can see that on the screen. So I'm stepping over here to check the values. So that's the positive side, that's the negative. .47, which is not brilliant. I imagine that's the sort of reading I'm probably going to be coming down before the battery is fully discharged, but that's part of the test. Yeah, 7.47 both times. So just a quick close-up of the flight control board from the Bugs 3 Mini and the buck converter. So the buck converter is that. So the power from the ESC goes into it, and then from there it goes to the flight control board. So there's the flight control board, there's the positive terminal, there's the negative. So those are the terminals I test the battery for, that I'm getting 7.47. Now ideally I'd want about 8 volts. But I first tested this when I had the battery almost totally discharged to make sure I didn't get more than about 8 volts. So we'll fly it and see how long it lasts. And of course there's the 4-in-1 ESC, an aftermarket replacement that made the whole thing possible, because that is rated to 15 amps versus the 4 to 6 for the original one. It used to burn, sometimes used to burn out on the Bugs 3 Mini, EX2 Mini. So on for the flight. So here's the whole rig ready to fly. with the battery strapped underneath it, and beneath that the camera housing. I'm going to fly with the Y1 Lite rather than risk the GoPro. So the camera's not inside, but everything else is. It's also got the Vifly beacon, the drone finder, that'll beep if I crash, so it'll lead me to it in the grass. So yeah, ready for testing. This successful flight went for about 10 minutes, so here's a quick summary of what I found and my conclusions for those who don't want to sit through the rest of it, which is quite understandable. It started out about 4.2 per cell, 3.8 at the end, so even coming up for 10 minutes I still hadn't hit the low battery warning, so the setting of 7.4 on the board for minimum voltage into it seems to be fine. What I did notice is the throttle's still very abrupt. If anything, the 3S battery makes that more noticeable. So it's nice having the extra power, but it was hard to get it on smoothly. I noticed towards the end of the flight I had a bit of feel for it, but overall it's not a fun flying experience compared to the Bugs 3 flight control board. The other thing, I got lots of RSSI warnings, range warnings, which when you think about it is fair enough. It's a tiny control board and a tiny little bit of circuitry for the transmitter built in compared to the large unit on the Bugs 3. So another limitation. And the final thing is I realised at the moment I'm not terribly interested in acro, and if I was it wouldn't be on one of these. So I'll probably take this experiment as far as I care to go, in terms of seeing how 3S would go with the Bugs 3 Mini. But I've had a lot of fun and I've learned a lot along the way. So that's about it for me, so happy flying. Till next time. Right, what's the voltage afterwards? 7.4, 3.8, 3.79, 3.79. Okay, so that's a good voltage for after flight. Final check on the power that's coming from the ESC to the buck converter and then onto the flight control board. So turn it on. Turn on this. And let's look at the feed that's going into the board. .47, so it hasn't changed. It's the same feed going in, which is what I kind of hoped and expected. So regardless of how much the 12 volt battery discharges, it's still getting 7.4 to the flight control board. Happy with that.